Today I'm ranking very basic arguments for God. Well, not very basic arguments, but my basic understanding of a few arguments for God. So, first, ontological. I don't really get this one. I think it doesn't prove God, in my opinion. It just proves that it defines God. Because a lot of people say, oh, people don't really understand the ontological argument. No, I just think that, well, why would that prove God? It's saying that basically the best thing that could possibly be is something that would exist, therefore it exists. Well, that doesn't necessitate that that greatest thing does exist. It's like saying something is the worst possible thing would not exist, therefore it doesn't exist. Okay, that one's actually logically true because nothing could be the worst thing possible that it would require to not exist. But for God, it's just like, so yeah, it's the greatest possible thing would have to exist, but we don't know if that greatest possible thing does exist or not. So I think the ontological argument is really bad. Kalam cosmological argument, basically saying that all things have a cause, or all things that happen have a cause, and the universe happened, so it had a cause, didn't just eternally exist, which must be God. I'd say it's not directly for God. It's actually, I'll put it in decent, because the Big Bang is decently points towards God, not very strongly, but there could be other causes. Teleological, basically, it looks like there's design. Honestly, I would put this in very strong, because I understand the vastness of the universe and probability and the time of the universe, and how it's extremely improbable, but still possible that we have like rotors made of proteins and things and the eye and all that stuff. But when I look at it's honestly more of a way things feel. It seems insane to look around the world at all the car brands, at how some human being with consciousness who works at Ford Motor Company is striving to gain a finance system set up, built initially out of cotton, etc., and how penguins give rocks to their partners, and all of this just happened because a couple molecules were more stable when they were put together by chance. That just seems kind of insane to me. Next, fine-tuning argument. It's fine-tuned for life. Honestly, not great. Because I think what people don't consider much is, yes, if you were to currently change the force of gravity slightly, or the weak nuclear force slightly, or the strong force slightly, or anything slightly, sure, it'd go out of whack. But that's only because the other laws of physics, which are more of observations of physics, not necessarily, well, as far as we know, they're written into the basis of the universe and can't be changed, but they're just what we observe. So the laws of physics themselves could be changed. For instance, you could raise gravity ever so slightly, but just however gravity works could be changed. So I think because we can't even fully understand how the basis of the universe's laws really work, we can't really say it's fine-tuned. Sure, there could be fine-tuning, but I think that's better as a physical sense, more like the teleological, how Earth is, well, even there, because there's arguments against it of how the Earth is eventually going to explode and there's still natural disasters. But overall, I would say fine-tuning argument isn't that great, because it doesn't really account for the fact that if somehow the universe ended up in some different way and not the way we have it here, then the laws of physics could be different, to where gravity could be raised a lot and it would still work out somehow. So yeah, I don't think it's very great. Moral. I would say dog, because frankly, I just don't think it works out. I mean, there's the arguments for biology now, whether how this biologically arose is questionable, but when I've seen debates on the moral argument, it's more like, yeah, but we just kids can feel things, right? Well, yeah, but that comes from the brain, right? So we can debate whether it's evolution or creation, or if it's theologically, it's theistically guided or it's naturalistic, but ultimately it's built into our brain. So this isn't a soul pooling thing, this is a brain pooling thing, and therefore I don't think it points to anything even spiritual at all. Consciousness is not directly for God. While it is one of the reasons I would never be a full atheist, because atheists like to say oh, well, yeah, we didn't know that, how trees grew from absorbing air, but now we do. yes, I understand that, and I'm sure it would have been crazy, but I can look at something we don't fully understand, like quantum physics, and go, that's really weird. I don't know how quantum physics works, but there's some theories. I think string theory is absolutely stupid. Quantum field theory makes sense. And it's really confusing, and there is an answer, but we don't know it. But for consciousness, I don't think there is an answer. I think it's just we have some sort of soul. There is something in us. I don't think perception comes from neurons. What actually forms perception? Just consciousness. What is it? Doesn't make any sense. What is the brain feeding the consciousness to? It's sending signals inside of itself, and somehow when this computer comes together, it is now able to see. It just doesn't make any sense. I think consciousness just can't be explained materialistically, which is why I think materialism is frankly very stupid. Thinking that the soul doesn't exist, or at least some form of consciousness, and we're just observing something and have no control over it. It's weird. It's really weird. So, but it's not directly for God. It could be any form of spiritualism at all. Anything that accepts that there's some sort of perception makes sense. Now, there's the argument that, okay, well, at what point do you become conscious? Well, I think that if there is some sort of space or realm or whatever where you are conscious, then you have consciousness outside of the physical, and the brain just facilitates it. So you have full consciousness and awareness and agency and free will, etc. But to do anything physical, and they're like linked in somehow, your brain has to develop. So like if you get a little bit of thought, well, now you still have agency, but it's limited to like 5 neurons, so it does basically nothing, and it just grows and grows. So no, I don't think a rock is conscious. Now, I do suppose that would point towards distinct consciousnesses, so that would be more akin to a sort of aligning with teleological, like how could there be individual consciousnesses? So that could point somewhat towards God, but I think consciousness in itself isn't directly an argument for God. Next, contingency. And if you're unaware of what this is the Royal Society for putting things on top of other things. I think this one is very strong. Most people believe in the Big Bang, and if you believe there's a start, then what started it? I mean, it's just that simple. As often, what's his name? Cliff Connectley says there's like 6 atheist miracles. I think movement from non-movement, order from non-order, I think a lot of those kind of overlap, but one of them is legitimately just, well, okay, how did the universe start? And that's another one of those things. It's sort of between like my quantum physics versus consciousness example. It's not necessarily that there is no answer, but it's also not necessarily that we just haven't discovered it yet. It's just like, we don't know if there is an answer. That's the thing. I mean, and if there is, it would have to be God, right? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. And they say that's God of the gaps. You're just using God to explain what we don't know. But until I hear a decent argument for what it could be that isn't just eternal, which has arguments for and against, of course, I'd say more against it. But if it's not an eternal universe, which is already something that seems to be contradictory to me, to a lot of logic, then what would it be? Not some sort of creator? Next up, beauty, CSR 71 Blackbird. Dog water. Just legitimately terrible. Who actually uses this argument? Hey, look how beautiful that sunset is. Wow. Okay. And like just that's just what that is, and B, a lot of beauty is explained biologically. So I think the fact that we get strong, well, also culturally, biologically developed into our sense of culture, and our sense of culture amplified beauty. So that's not an argument for God at all. That's just like, dang, this couldn't arise on its own. It's like it's a really, really weak layperson version of the teleological argument. It's just so bad. And then math. I would say dog water, honestly. Like, okay, yeah, 1 + 1 is 2, but that's because in this universe and the laws that govern it, individual things, be they, neutrinos or buildings, anything of any scale, can be identified by certain things and differentiated generally. Of course, whether this atom is part of that building or not is something up for debate, but you can generally say the Empire State Building is different from the Burj Khalifa. So you can say there's 2 buildings, and according to the way we define this, if you want to get really specific, then fine, let's choose a single quark, because those can be defined seemingly if we know what quarks really are and they really exist. Then yeah, quark 1 and quark 2, that is 2 things. And you say, oh, there's numbers beyond our comprehension. What holds this knowledge of the many numbers? Well, that's just what happens if you keep counting? We've observed that you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections because they are distinct things separated by the pixels in the computation. There are distinct things that you can count. And we've given these names. Obviously 1, 2, and 3 don't exist, but 3, the concept of 3 without the word or number 3 exists. And therefore, we have observed that things keep going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and given numbers, and this value keeps increasing forever and ever. So it's not like there's some mind holding mathematics. It's just what happens if you continue this chain. So yeah, I don't think beauty, math, moral, or ontological are that good. Ontological is most complex. These are kind of like, dang, but isn't that crazy, man? So yeah, consciousness is one of the reasons I'm not atheist, but it's not directly for God. Teleological is a strong one. Contingency as well. They're kind of like, I guess they are sort of like William Lane Craig's, the 6 atheist miracles. That would be creation, and I often mix these two up. I call it fine tuning, but it's not really fine tuning. Fine tuning's not that great. But yeah, the way everything just seems right. And then consciousness is just there. And then yeah, ontological, I really don't. Maybe I don't understand it. Maybe I'm not complex enough, but all the breakdowns I've seen of ontological just seem to define what God is. So it's like, yeah, man, the greatest thing would exist, therefore it exists. What? I mean, seriously, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. The greatest possible thing would have to exist to be the greatest possible thing, therefore it exists. That just doesn't make any sense at all. That's not an argument. And also, I am a Christian, if it wasn't clear from my PSV at least. So yeah, and also I'm watching this right now. It's decent. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this very base level thing. I think I've covered some commonly ignored objections and stuff, but of course I'm no theologian or philosopher. I'm just some random dude. So yeah.